My wife told me she needed a weekend alone to find herself. She said it on a Wednesday night while I was standing at the kitchen counter, slicing limes for the tacos our daughter liked. The television was on low in the living room. Somewhere upstairs, 12-year-old Ava was practicing the same 3 measures of a piano piece badly enough that I could recognize each mistake from the kitchen. My wife Natalie stood across from me with both hands wrapped around a mug of tea she had stopped drinking 10 minutes earlier. "I just need quiet," she said. "No work, no being someone's wife, no being someone's mom, no having to explain what I'm feeling before I even understand it myself." At the time, I thought that sounded sad. Now I know it was rehearsed. My name is Owen Mercer. I was 41 when this happened. I live outside Raleigh, North Carolina, and for the last 16 years I've worked as a commercial estimator for a construction company. My job is numbers, deadlines, floor plans, material costs, and people asking why a project is suddenly 12% over budget when they ignored every warning I gave them 6 months earlier. I'm not a dramatic man. I don't throw things. I don't yell to win an argument. I don't believe a raised voice makes a fact more true. Natalie used to say that was what she loved about me. "You make the world feel less loud," she told me on our second date. We had been married 14 years. We had 1 daughter, a small brick house with a screened porch, a dog named Murphy who shed on every black shirt I owned, and a life that looked stable from the outside because, for a long time, it was. Natalie worked in communications for a regional healthcare nonprofit. She organized campaigns, donor events, newsletters, and the kind of polished public messages that made struggling organizations look hopeful and well-managed. She was good at it. She was also good at making people feel seen. That was part of what made this hard. Natalie didn't come to me angry. She didn't say she hated our life. She didn't ask for a divorce. She said she was tired. She said she felt like she had been carrying too much for too long. She said a friend had recommended a quiet resort in the Blue Ridge Mountains where people went to hike, read, get massages, and turn off their phones. I remember looking at the lime juice on my hands and thinking, of course she needs a break. So I said yes. I said go. I said, I'll take Ava to her piano recital on Saturday. I'll handle Murphy, sleep late, read a book, do whatever helps. Natalie's face softened in a way that made me feel proud of myself. That was the first thing I got wrong. The trip was supposed to be Friday through Sunday. Natalie left Friday morning with a canvas weekender bag, hiking boots she had not worn in years, and a new cream-colored sweater I had never seen before. It had a soft texture, expensive looking, with a folded collar and sleeves that stopped just below her wrists. I noticed it because Natalie had spent most of the past year telling me she was trying not to buy things. Then again, I noticed a lot of things that week. I just didn't understand what they meant yet. Before she left, she kissed Ava on the forehead, told her she loved her, and bent down to scratch Murphy behind the ears. Then she came to me. "Please don't call unless it's important," she said. "I'm serious, Owen. I need to be disconnected." I nodded. "Of course." She hugged me, her cheek pressed against mine. I smelled a perfume I didn't recognize, something warmer than what she usually wore, not floral, not sharp, more like vanilla, cedar, and smoke. "You smell nice," I said. She stepped back too quickly. "Oh, I found it in the back of my drawer." Then she smiled. It was a small smile, controlled, almost careful. I watched her drive away at 8:17 that morning. By noon, I had already forgotten about the perfume. Friday evening was normal in the way a house can be normal when one person is missing from it. Ava chose takeout instead of the tacos Natalie had planned. We watched an old comedy movie on the couch. Murphy pushed his head into my lap every time there was thunder in the distance. At 9:40, Ava looked up from her phone and asked, "Did Mom text?" "No," I said. "She's trying not to use her phone this weekend." Ava frowned. "She hasn't even looked at my video." "What video?" I sent her a video of Murphy sneezing. It was funny. I checked without making a big deal of it. The message had been delivered, not read. "That's okay," I told her. "She'll see it later." But I remember Ava looking at the screen for a second longer than she needed to. Then she said, "She always reads my stuff." I didn't have an answer for that. Saturday morning, I took Ava to her piano recital at a small arts center near downtown. She wore a navy dress Natalie had helped her pick out. There was a loose thread near the hem, and I found myself trying to fix it in the parking lot with the tiny sewing kit from my glove compartment. I'm not good with sewing. Ava watched me struggle and said, "Mom would have fixed that in 2 seconds." I looked at her, then I smiled and said, "Your mom has hidden talents." The thread stayed loose. Ava played anyway. She made one mistake in the middle of the piece, barely noticeable. But when she finished, she looked toward the empty seat beside me where Natalie was supposed to have been. I clapped hard enough for both of us. Afterward, Ava asked if we could send her mom a picture. "Sure," I said. I took one outside the arts center. Ava held her program against her chest and gave me a tired smile. Natalie's reply came 43 minutes later. "Beautiful. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." No heart, no voice note, no joke about Murphy, no comment about the navy dress she had helped choose. Just a sentence that could have been sent to anyone. At the time, I thought she was trying to honor her own boundary. Now I think she was distracted. That afternoon, I was in the grocery store with Ava when my phone buzzed. The subject line read, "Your stay at Cedar Hollow Resort, final receipt." At first I assumed it was spam. Then I saw Natalie's name. I stopped beside a display of bottled water and opened it. The email was friendly. It thanked Natalie Mercer for choosing Cedar Hollow. It included the dates of her stay, the cabin number, a breakdown of spa services, dinner charges, and a note that the resort hoped both guests had enjoyed their weekend escape. Both guests. I read it twice, then a third time. Ava was standing beside the cart holding a box of cereal. "Dad?" I looked at her. "Sorry, work thing." I forwarded the email to myself. I did not reply. I did not call Natalie. I did not text her a screenshot with a row of question marks. I finished buying groceries. I drove home. I helped Ava put food away. Then, after she went upstairs to call a friend, I sat alone at the kitchen table and opened the receipt again. The first charge was for 1 cabin. The second was for 2 dinners on Friday night. The third was for a bottle of wine. The fourth was for a couple's massage package. Oh. The massage package was listed as a special rate for 2. I stared at that line until the words stopped looking like words. My first instinct was not rage, it was confusion, because I had agreed to let my wife go away alone. I had told her I would protect the quiet she said she needed, and she had used that quiet to book something meant for 2 people. I checked the email header. It had been sent from the actual resort domain. It included a reservation number, a customer service number, and a note that Natalie's email address had been added as a secondary contact through the booking system. My email was there because our shared household account was still attached to a travel profile we had used for vacations years earlier. It was not a hacked message. It was not a scam. It was a mistake. Her mistake. I called the resort, but I did not accuse anyone of anything. I said I was trying to understand a charge that had been sent to our family email account. The woman who answered was polite but careful. She confirmed that the reservation had been for 2 adults. She could not tell me the name of the other guest. I told her I understood. Then she said something that stayed with me. "Sir, I'm sorry if this has caused a problem." I looked out the kitchen window at Murphy chasing a squirrel he would never catch. "It didn't cause the problem," I said. "It just showed me one." I hung up. Then I went upstairs and opened our shared cloud account. Natalie and I had used the same family photo storage for years. It was mostly pictures of Ava, school events, birthdays, the dog, home projects, and the occasional photograph of one of us trying to cook something too complicated. Natalie had always complained that the app backed up too much. She was right. It did. The first 6 photos from that weekend were harmless. A mountain road, a wooden sign that said Cedar Hollow, a fireplace in a cabin, a mug beside a book, a window looking out over pine trees. Then I found the 7th. It was a photo of Natalie's bare feet on a rug in front of the fireplace. She was wearing the cream sweater and dark leggings. A glass of red wine sat on the coffee table. At first, nothing about it proved anything. Then I zoomed in. In the black television screen across from her, there was a reflection. A man's arm, not much. A wrist, a hand resting on the back of a chair. The edge of a dark blue shirt. I felt my chest tighten. I moved to the next picture. Natalie had taken a photo of the view from the cabin window. The glass reflected the room behind her. Her face was partly visible, phone raised, and near the bed was a second suitcase. Not mine, not hers. A dark green hard-shell suitcase with a leather luggage tag. I knew that suitcase. Oh, I had seen it 11 years earlier in a dorm hallway at a college reunion. The owner was a man named Blake Hanley, Natalie's old classmate, the friend she had told me not to worry about. Blake had been around the edges of our marriage for years, not constantly. Not enough for me to see him as a threat. He was someone Natalie had known in college. They had been in the same communications program. He lived in Charlotte now and worked for a marketing agency. He came to our wedding. He sent Christmas cards for a while. He had a wife named Megan, at least the last time I had checked. Natalie always called him an old friend. When he sent messages, she would mention them casually. Blake got promoted. Blake's company landed a big account. Blake remembers that terrible professor we had. It was always harmless. Old memories, old jokes, old friendships. But in the photo, beside the hotel bed, was the suitcase I remembered Blake dragging through a hotel lobby after Natalie's 10-year college reunion. Dark green, scuffed near the wheel, brown leather tag. I sat back in my chair. My hands were cold. I did not want it to be true. Even then, with the receipt and the reflection and the suitcase, I wanted there to be an explanation. Maybe Blake had booked a nearby cabin. Maybe they had run into each other. Maybe the suitcase belonged to someone else. That was the thing about betrayal. Your mind becomes a defense attorney for the person hurting you. It keeps making arguments because the alternative is too expensive to accept all at once. Natalie came home Sunday night at 7:12. She walked through the door carrying the canvas bag, her hiking boots, and a paper bag from a gift shop. Ava ran down the stairs first. "Mom!" Natalie hugged her tightly. Too tightly, I thought. Her eyes closed for a second, her face pressed into our daughter's hair. Then she looked at me. Hey, I said. How was the recital? Good. Ava did great. Natalie smiled at Ava. I saw the picture. You looked beautiful. Ava's expression changed slightly. You didn't watch the video. I was unplugged, honey. But you sent Dad a text. Natalie froze for less than a second. Then she laughed softly. I checked in once. Ava nodded, but she didn't look convinced. I took Natalie's bag from her before she could set it down. I'll get this upstairs, I said. She reached for it. No, I've got it. It's fine. For the first time in 14 years, my wife looked afraid of me touching her luggage. Not because I had ever given her reason to be afraid, because she knew what was in it. I let go. No problem, I said. That night, after Ava went to bed, Natalie sat across from me at the kitchen table. She had showered, changed into gray sweatpants, put her hair up. She looked tired in a way that was probably real. There is something cruel about discovering betrayal in someone who still looks familiar. She asked me what I had done all weekend. I told her about the recital, the groceries, Murphy getting sick on the rug, Ava's video. Then I said, "How was Cedar Hollow?" She looked down at her tea. Quiet. "Did you hike?" "A little." "Read?" "A little." "Get a massage?" Her eyes lifted, just slightly. "I did," she said. "By yourself?" She was quiet. I asked again, "By yourself?" Natalie folded her hands together. "No." I nodded once. "Who was with you?" She did not answer. I took out my phone. I placed it on the table between us. I opened the email and turned it toward her. Her face went pale. "Owen, who was with you?" She looked at the receipt. Her mouth opened, closed. Then she said the sentence I had already started to hate. "It's not what you think." I leaned back. "Then help me think something else." She rubbed both hands over her face. "It was Blake." I did not move. "Did you invite him?" "No." "Did he invite you?" "No, not exactly." "What does that mean?" Natalie looked toward the hallway, toward Ava's room, then back at me. "He knew I was going away." "How?" "I told him." "Why?" "Because we talk." "How much do you talk?" She swallowed. "Sometimes." I stared at her. "Sometimes. He's an old friend, Owen. Old friends don't show up in the same cabin for a couple's massage package." Her eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't planned like that. The reservation was for 2 people. I made it for 1. He changed it when he got there. So he had access to your reservation? No. Then how did he change it? She looked away. That was answer enough. But I kept asking because I needed the truth to come out in full sentences, not in fragments I would have to assemble later. You gave him the booking details. I told him where I was. You told him the cabin number. Yes. Before he came, she whispered. Yes. I felt something inside me settle. Not heal, settle, like dust after something collapses. When did he arrive? Saturday morning. The receipt says 2 dinners Friday night. Natalie's eyes closed. He came Friday. You just said Saturday. I got confused. No. You got caught. She started crying then, quietly, not dramatically. Her shoulders shook, and for a second, a part of me wanted to move around the table and comfort her. That part of me was still her husband. The rest of me was finally waking up. Did you sleep with him? Natalie pressed her lips together. Owen, did you sleep with him? She nodded, once, small, devastating. I looked down at the wood grain of the kitchen table, a table we had picked out together when Ava was 3. A table where Natalie had helped with homework, wrapped birthday presents, paid bills, made lists for family vacations. Now it was the place where she admitted she had taken another man to a cabin and shared the quiet she told me she needed to find herself. I didn't ask for graphic details. I didn't need them. The details that mattered were already there. The second dinner, the wine, the couple's package, the cream sweater, the perfume, the second suitcase beside the bed, the way she had protected her bag from my hands when she came home. Those things told me enough. Still, I asked one more question. Was this the first time? Natalie did not answer. I looked at her. Was this the first time? No. The word was almost silent, but it filled the kitchen. She told me it started 8 months earlier, not with a hotel, not with a kiss, with a message. Blake had reached out after seeing a photo of Ava's school fundraiser online. He said Natalie looked happy. She said she wasn't sure she was. That was how it started. He listened. He remembered things from college. He told her she had always been the most interesting person in the room. He told her he had wondered what would have happened if they had dated back then. She told him she felt invisible. Then came the calls. At first they were during lunch, then during commutes, then late at night after I went to bed. Natalie said she would sit in the car outside our house because she didn't want Ava to hear. She said she told herself it was emotional support. She said she convinced herself that because there had been no touching, she had not crossed a line. Then Blake came to Raleigh for a work meeting. They had coffee, then dinner, then a hotel room. Natalie told me she had stayed late at an event for work. She came home at 1:06 in the morning. I remembered that night. I had been asleep on the couch waiting for her. She had covered me with a blanket before going upstairs. I had thought it was tender. She told me there had been 3 more hotel meetings after that, different places, different excuses. One during a supposed staff retreat, one on a night she claimed she was helping a coworker through a divorce, one during a conference in Charlotte where Blake had a room in the same hotel, then the weekend at Cedar Hollow, the one she called space, the one she told me was about silence. Why? I asked. Natalie looked at me with tears on her face. I don't know. That's not true. I felt lonely. You were lonely? Yes. You had a husband who came home every night, a daughter who adores you, a life you helped build. And when you felt lonely, you chose to lie to all of us? I didn't mean to hurt Ava. You didn't mean to hurt anyone because you didn't want to feel like the person doing it. She flinched. I wish I could say I felt good when I saw that. I didn't. I felt tired. Did Blake know you were married? Yes. Did he know you had a daughter? Yes. Is he still married? Natalie's silence changed. It was different from the others. Less guilt, more fear. Yes, she said. To Megan? Yes. Does she know? I don't think so. I nodded. Then I stood up. Natalie stood too. Owen, please, don't do something out of anger. I looked at her. I'm not angry enough to do something reckless. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Her hand remained in the air for a second. I said, you sleep in the guest room tonight. Owen, not because I'm trying to punish you, because I need one room in this house that doesn't feel like a lie. Then I walked upstairs. I did not sleep. At 2:18 in the morning, I found Natalie's phone charging on the bathroom counter. I looked at it. I did not touch it. I had enough. That matters. Not because I was noble, not because I didn't want more evidence. I wanted it badly. But there is a point where gathering more pain stops being clarity and becomes self-harm. I went into Ava's room instead. She was asleep with one arm hanging off the side of the bed, her recital program on the floor beside her backpack. I picked it up, placed it on her desk, and stood there in the dark for a minute. I thought about how small children are when they sleep, how complete their trust is, how adults can destroy a house without making a sound. The next morning, I called a family lawyer. I did not ask what I could take from Natalie. I asked what I needed to do to protect Ava, protect our finances, and make decisions without turning my daughter into evidence. The lawyer told me not to make big moves in the heat of the moment, preserve financial records, document what I had lawfully received, keep communication calm, do not involve Ava in adult details. That was all I needed to hear. I opened a notebook. I wrote down dates. Friday, Natalie leaves. Saturday, resort receipt. Sunday, confession. 8 months, a fair timeline, according to Natalie. Then I started checking practical things. Not secret accounts, not hidden cameras, not revenge. Our mortgage, savings, credit cards, retirement contributions, insurance policies, the small education fund we had set aside for Ava. By noon, I realized Natalie had moved money into a separate account over several months. Not much at a time, a few $100s here, a few hundred there. The transfers were labeled as personal savings. I stared at the screen. Then I remembered something Natalie had said during our conversation. I don't know what I was thinking, but she did. She had been thinking about leaving, maybe not on that trip, maybe not that month, but she had been building an exit, a private account, a private relationship, a private version of herself, and I had been the last person invited to know. That evening, Natalie came home from work early. She stood in the doorway of my office while I reviewed documents. I need to talk to you. You can talk. She stepped inside. I ended it. With Blake? Yes. When? This morning. You told him it was over? Yes. Did you tell him I know? Her eyes moved away from mine. Yes. Did he say anything? He said he was sorry. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because there are people who believe I'm sorry is a receipt. Something you hand over after taking what you wanted. Did he say he was leaving his wife? I asked. Natalie's face changed. He said he needed time. Of course he did. Men like Blake always needed time when the fantasy demanded daylight. You believed he was going to leave her. Natalie looked down. He said he was unhappy. That isn't an answer. No. Did he ever tell you when? No. Did he ever introduce you to anyone in his real life? No. Did he ever spend a holiday with you? No. Did he ever let you believe you were anything but a secret? Natalie began crying again. I did not raise my voice. That is what you traded us for, I said. A man who only wanted you in rooms where nobody could see you. She sat down in the chair across from my desk. For the first time, she looked less like the woman who had hurt me and more like someone seeing her own choices without the story she had used to excuse them. But I did not confuse her regret with my obligation. I want a separation, I said. Her head snapped up. You're not even willing to try counseling? I'm willing to talk to a counselor someday. I'm not willing to pretend this is a misunderstanding. We could fix this. You had 8 months to decide you didn't want to destroy us. I was confused. You were organized. That sentence stopped her because she had been. The calendar, the calls, the trips, the account, the stories, the room, the wine, the second dinner. Confusion does not make reservations. The hardest conversation was with Ava. We did not tell her details. We told her mom and dad were having serious adult problems. We told her none of it was her fault. We told her she would not have to choose sides. We told her she would be loved in both homes. Ava listened quietly from the living room couch, holding Murphy's collar. Then she asked, "Is Mom leaving because of me?" Natalie broke down. I moved closer to Ava. "No," I said. "Nothing about this is because of you." "Did I do something wrong?" "No." "Are you getting divorced?" Natalie covered her mouth. I looked at my daughter. "We're figuring things out," I said. It was the most honest answer I had. Ava nodded, but tears ran down her face anyway. Then she said something I still think about. Mom said she needed space. Does that mean she needed space from me too? Natalie made a sound like she had been hit. I put my arm around Ava. No, I said. Your mom loves you, but adults can make choices that hurt people even when they love them. Ava wiped her face with her sleeve. That doesn't make sense. No, I said quietly, it doesn't. 3 months later. 3 months later, Natalie was living in an apartment 15 minutes away, not far enough to disappear, not close enough to pretend nothing had changed. We had a temporary parenting schedule. Ava stayed with me most school nights because her room, friends, piano teacher, and routine were here. She spent alternating weekends with Natalie and dinner with her on Wednesdays. We communicated through a shared calendar and short messages about school, appointments, and Murphy. No late-night emotional essays, no arguments by text, no trying to rewrite history. Blake had stayed with his wife. That was not satisfying to me. It was simply predictable. Natalie told me once that Megan found out about the affair after Blake confessed. She said Megan asked him to leave their house for a while. She said he had called Natalie twice after that. I did not ask what he said. I did not want to become a witness to their collapse. That was no longer my life. My life was Ava's piano lessons, my job, making dinner without checking whether Natalie would be late, learning which bills were mine alone, taking Murphy on longer walks because I had trouble sleeping. The first few weeks were ugly, not loud, ugly. There is a difference. I would find a hair tie behind the bathroom sink and feel my throat close. I would open the pantry and see the tea Natalie used to drink. I would hear a song in a grocery store that she had played in the car for years. Grief is embarrassing sometimes. It doesn't arrive in big moments. It hides in small objects you never ask to care about. One Tuesday, Ava came home from Natalie's apartment angry. She dropped her backpack in the hallway and said, "Mom keeps crying when I'm there." I put down the plate I was drying. What happened? She says she misses us. I waited. Then Ava said, "I miss her too, but I don't know if I'm supposed to make her feel better." That was when I realized my daughter had started carrying an emotional weight that belonged to adults. So I sat with her at the kitchen table. "You are never responsible for making a parent feel okay," I told her. "You can love your mom, you can be sad, you can be mad, but you don't have to fix anything." Ava looked at me. "Do you hate her?" I took a breath. No, that surprised both of us. "I hate what happened," I said. "I hate the lies. I hate that she hurt you. But hate is heavy, Ava. I don't want to hand it to you." She thought about that. Then she nodded. "Okay." 6 months after the resort trip, I went back to Cedar Hollow, not with another woman. Not to prove anything. I went alone for one night on a Thursday in late spring. I booked a small room, not a cabin. I brought a paperback novel, hiking shoes, and a notebook I never opened. The receptionist handed me a keycard. For a second, my stomach tightened. Then I took it. Outside, the mountains were green again. The air smelled like wet leaves and pine. I walked one of the trails Natalie had photographed but never actually shown me. At the overlook, I stood by myself and watched the sun drop behind the trees. I thought about the first thing Natalie had said. I need space to find myself. Maybe that was true. Maybe she had lost parts of herself long before Blake. Maybe I had missed things. Maybe I had been too comfortable. Maybe I had mistaken stability for attention. But none of that made her choices mine. That was the lesson I carried home. I could examine my marriage honestly without accepting responsibility for someone else's deception. I could admit where I had become quiet without calling her betrayal inevitable. I could grieve what we had and still stop protecting the person who destroyed it. When I got home the next day, Ava was waiting on the porch with Murphy. She ran down the steps and hugged me. "Did you have fun?" "I had a good hike. Did you find yourself?" I looked at her, then I smiled. "Not all at once," I said, "but I found the direction." Murphy barked at a delivery truck. Ava laughed. The porch needed repainting. The grass was too high. There were dishes in the sink and emails waiting in my inbox. My life was not clean. It was not easy, but it was real. And after months of being married to a lie, real was enough. If you've ever had to choose between staying in a familiar pain and walking into an uncertain future, tell me what helped you take the first step. And if this story stayed with you, subscribe for more long-form stories about truth, boundaries, and rebuilding after betrayal.
Yeah. Saw you stepping in, all eyes turning, heartbeat skips to your rhythm. Yeah. Daylight sliding through the window, your laughing sets the speakers off. Coffee cooling on the table, we're tangled in playlists and plans. Your energy contagious, pushes worries out the door. This moment light and ordinary turns magic when you say my name. Can't fake this feeling, your spark pulls me up. Wanna run with you, never slow down. Every move is a message, every glance says now. Oh, let's catch the ride while the city's wide awake. Jump into rhythms only we can make. Turn up the track, reminders fade. We're living loud, don't need to escape. Quick calls.